Hello, Devlin here with you, and welcome to another edition of my pirate radio show. Thank you for taking the time to come on and join me. Grab yourself a beverage of your favorite, I don't know whether it's hot chocolate or tea or coffee or maybe a little, some of the stronger stuff. Whatever it is, pull yourself up a beverage, maybe a snack, and listen in. We'll have ourselves a nice chat, and I'm going to start this episode talking about something that's, I don't like to get too, okay, I talk about just about anything here. You all know that if you're a regular viewer, and if you're not, well, I do. But every once in a while a topic comes up that I really feel I have to be vocal about, and for no reason, but I feel that everybody else is, mouthing off about this situation, so I feel, hey, my opinion counts just as much as everybody else's. So I thought we'd get this out of the way early and do it right now. And this topic is, well, we've got Remembrance Day right around the corner. If you're listening to this, this is literally on the weekend of Remembrance Day. And everybody every year comes up the same thing right after Halloween. All I see is the battle whether we can start playing Christmas music, putting up our Christmas decorations, and is it offensive to veterans? And I see a lot of people out there who are very opinionated on the fact that you should wait until at least November 12th to start putting up your Christmas decorations or playing Christmas music, because it's offensive to Remembrance Day. And I'm going to just say right now, not hold back, that I think this is the biggest load of bullocks, crap, whatever you want to call it, I have ever heard in my life. And the reason why is because there is nothing about Christmas that is disrespectful to soldiers. Okay? Now, if it was shifted around and Remembrance Day came before Halloween, and Halloween is all about, praising, the dark side and death and stuff, then I could understand it, because that would be insulting. But Christmas is all about life and joy and happiness. Now, I'm not saying everybody feels that way about Christmas, but overall, that is the feelings about Christmas. And the thing that drives me mad is, how does that, living life, celebrating, like all the music is either God-related or happiness or feel-good, or even when they're sad Christmas songs, they put you in an emotional mood. How in any way is that offensive to veterans? In fact, I would say that, veterans fought for us in order to have our freedom. And the thing is I don't see any problem in the fact that, so now let's be honest. I don't actually listen to Christmas music or put up any Christmas stuff until the end of November. But that's me. So, that's what I do. But I know a lot of people who love Christmas and they just anxiously await to get their decorations up, and I'm fighting for those people, because I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, yeah, I just, how can you, you're telling me you cannot wear a Santa hat and a poppy? Honestly, I think we should wear poppies all year round, if you want to be honest with me. But again, I don't look down upon people who don't wear poppies. Just because people don't wear poppies does not necessarily say that they do not celebrate Remembrance Day. I honestly think the people who say you can't play Christmas music or decorate before Remembrance Day would be as ridiculous as saying that you cannot wear a poppy after November 11th. Get that damn poppy off. That's disrespectful to Christmas. That's ridiculous, okay? Honestly, this is a bigger scope to me. This isn't just this battle. Now, before I get into the bigger side of it, I did actually talk to a soldier about it, one of our my friends who's in the military, and he told me he felt that it's disrespectful. And I had to disagree with him. I told him my things. It was a standstill. Nobody won. Nobody was right. Nobody was wrong. There is no right or wrong answer in this. But what happened? And, I respect his decision, but I do also know he's a military person, and that's drilled into him. Hey, throw a couple of poppies on the Christmas tree. Keep poppies going all year round. That's what I say. But anyhow, I respect his decision and stuff like that. But this is the bigger picture with me. This isn't just a matter of this. It's just, I am getting a little tired of the status quo bullying people into doing what they think is right. That is a big problem with the world today, is that we constantly teach people to try to be independent, be themselves. But then when you look, there's this underlying layer of people always telling you what the right thing to do is. You go on Facebook, you go on any social media, you go everywhere. You hear it in, your cafeterias, at work, you hear it, everywhere. People constantly are saying, no, but everybody knows you do not decorate your Christmas tree or play Christmas music before them. We have got to get out of this trap. And it is a trap because I hate the double standards of this world about how we constantly talk about how the world is becoming a better place. We're becoming more tolerant. We're becoming this and that. But are we? I don't think we are. We always talk about how the world needs to be more gender fluid, how the world needs to be more color oriented, how we have to embrace more ethnicities. I'm all for that. I am all for that. But then we have these doubled standards that do not work in the same case. Example, we constantly tell that we should have no more gender limitations. We should not have, if girls want to play with cars and boys want to play with Barbies, that's fine. But what do? We constantly instill in them basically everything. We basically continue to stereotype kids all the time. We teach it in schools. Why the hell do we teach genders in schools? Because eventually it all leads to the same thing, and that's dick goes into pussy to make kids. But honestly, we're not teaching about love. We're teaching about sex education. We're teaching about all of that. But we're right there instilling genders. I know parents, and God bless them for this, because, I know they're just proud and stuff. But I have seen parents on Facebook that as soon as their kids, start showing, oh my God, they're holding hands with another, kid of an opposite sex. And, oh, he's going to be a real ladies' man when he grows up. Or, oh, stuff like that. First of all, I don't want to pain you, but I was actually known for kissing a lot of little girls when I was a kid. It was really cute. It was something I did naturally, and obviously I grew out of it. It was just a phase. But the truth of the matter is we constantly instill that. We're like, yeah, that's my boy there. He's holding hands with a little girl, But would the same effect be if you saw, your boy holding hands with a little boy? Now, I'm not saying in any way that these people are homophobic, but it's not like we instill. But why aren't we teaching that we fall in love with people? But no, we constantly say we fall because honestly, if they're brought up in a same-sex home or two different genders, that's what they see. But as much as we teach that it's okay, we don't necessarily teach it's okay for them. Because we basically wait for the status quo to tell us that this is how it is. And we basically think, well, it doesn't matter. We can teach the good stuff. But as long as they're seeing the stuff we want them to see, it's a strange thing. I've talked about this before, how, parents who have their kids in sports and they say, oh, look, my kid's in sports. He just loves it. You've been pushing that sport in his face or her face since they were born. And this is what the status quo does. They constantly try to reaffirm things, putting in little memes, even if it's little funny memes, whatever you want to call them. I can't stand those things. I can't say their name. But you're putting out little statuses, and it's kind of a form of bullying because now it's like we try to get it like this is the thing. When I grew up, I used to say, well, I heard people say, and people would say, well, who are these people? There's people out there, those mysterious people. I figured it out what it is. It's media. It's people. It's everybody. It's everybody responsible for this. And this is the bigger problem. So when I see people saying this, you can't play Christmas music, we get almost like a bullying society. And then suddenly that's the thing. And I wish I could talk about this more, but I don't think I'm as intelligent, or I'd have to really put my words into it. But it bothers me to so many degrees. Lately in the last year, I watch a lot of movie shows, and I've started hearing terms like whitewashing. Whitewashing in Hollywood means like an all-white cast. And then, so now we see a lot of movies that are gender diversified, where you might see, okay, well, we're going to do this movie, a remake, but we're going to change the color and ethnicity of the people in it. And usually there's no problem with that, and I have no problem with that. But what I notice is that if, we're starting to see a case where, and I think this is a little offensive. We're seeing stuff with the Wonder Woman movie. We need a woman to direct that. And you know what? I say we hire the best person for the job for that. I've seen movies like The Hurt Locker. There's a lot of, that's all I can think of right now, but there are a lot of women directors who have made some incredible movies out there. But you know what? When I watch a movie, I don't think of, wow, this was directed by a woman. After the fact, I might say, wow, this was directed by a woman. Who cares? It was directed well. That's all I care about. But anyhow, so we're starting to see that, Mulan is coming out, and they're like, oh, we need a Chinese director for that. We're starting to see that. Black Panther movie, we need a black director for that. Not once do I ever hear, oh, we're going to do Superman. We need a white director, because all of a sudden that becomes racist. If Tyler Perry wants to do a movie with all black people in it, it's considered groundbreaking. If they did a movie with all indigenous people in it, it would be considered groundbreaking. But if a white director says, I want to do a movie with just white people in it, that becomes racist. How is that? You know why? Because that, again, is the status quo. We're now jumping on bandwagons to do things. I like seeing diversity in movies. I like to see lots of different genders. I like to see lots. But again, this is why. You cannot be pro-white anymore. You cannot be. I'm a white person, and I cannot be proud to be white. You can be a proud black person. You can be a proud woman. You can be a proud thing. But when I say I am proud to be a white male, that's white privilege. Once again, the status quo is telling us how to think. And I don't like that. Because I know how to think. I've been taught how to think. And I need to think the way I need to think. In fact, stifling me to think, and then going on and finding out that I cannot stand when people are all so against all this stuff. But then as soon as the chance comes, they follow the status quo and decide to, it's easier just to go along with it. I think that's absolutely rubbish. One of my favorite TV shows is Grey's Anatomy. And one of the things I've always liked about it is when they write characters, they just write the character. And then in casting, they don't say, we want white people, we want black people, they basically take a look at everyone and then cast the right person for the job. They have got a lot of ethnicity in Grey's Anatomy, but they always feel like they've picked the right person for the part. But they didn't just say, yeah, we got a white movie here, we better get a black best friend in here. One of my favorite movies about this, and this is how I know the status quo pushing everything, is kind of bullshit. Recently, a couple of years ago, Ant-Man came out, and I was not the biggest fan of Ant-Man, but a lot of people liked it. I thought it was okay. But, everybody talks about, gender diversity and, ethnicity. And what happened is I watched this movie, and I was surprised to see some of the blatant stereotypes in it. Like Latino stereotype, black stereotype. There's humor based on them in it. And fans just raved about these characters, and they called it diversity. When I watch this movie, I watch it and say, this is some of the most racist thing. Now, it's not racist in the way of like Transformers 2, where they have blatantly robots talking like black people and saying horrible things. But we laughing at it's not like the ethnic people are the geniuses here. It's not that they're the scientists. These people are the crooks, actually, in Ant-Man. But they tell funny jokes and lines, so that makes them kind of the butt of the joke. And to me, that is very racist. Anyhow, getting back to it, I'm tired of people telling us what to do. And I think the whole playing Christmas stuff before Remembrance Day is ridiculous. Put your damn tree up. You can still remember our forefathers. If you think that I'm not someone who supports it, you should look back at last year when I did a Remembrance Day show. Remembrance Day means a lot to me. And as I said, I don't put my Christmas. But you know what? If I was a real big Christmas fan, I would do it. I just don't do it because I don't want Christmas to be boring for me when it comes. So doing a month of it is better than 2 months of it. But I know people who love it, so let them do it. It is not disgraceful in any way. It's ridiculous. As I said, Christmas is about joy and happiness, living and giving. And that's what the soldiers fought for. So I think Christmas and Remembrance Day go hand in hand. So go, and when you're finished listening to this, go put on a nice Perry Como Christmas album. In fact, if I was a real ass, I would put a Christmas song on right now. But since I don't play Christmas songs before November, I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to try to find something that's upbeat. Anyhow, I said my word. This whole thing about the world telling us how we do things, this is going to be something I examine a lot in my old age. So I hope you don't mind talking about it, because it's really bothering me. And so we're going to take a short break and get back to something lighthearted like movies, which I love talking about. And that's coming up right after this. Welcome back. I have climbed down off my soap box. And now I'm moving over to my popcorn box and grabbing some popcorn so I can talk about the movies I saw in October. Now, starting in September, I decided that at the end of each month, I was going to talk about the movies I saw that month, because a couple people actually tell me that they really like my reviews and kind of agree with them, which surprises me because most of my reviews sometimes go against a lot of people. Well, not most, but a lot. Anyhow, Halloween, we had a special, and then we had a good chance to get a co-host last week, so we didn't get to do October's, and I didn't want to be one of those people who went against my promise. So we're doing it a little late, but these are the movies I saw in October. I saw 3 of them, and you might not know 2 of them, but you should know those 2. But we'll start with the one that most people know, because it was a fairly big hit at the box office. It was the Magnificent Seven remake, starring Chris Pratt, Denzel Washington, Vincent D'Onofrio, and a whole lot of other people that are escaping my mind right now. Basically, this is a remake of the classic Western that was had Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen in it. A wonderful Western that I just got to see at the beginning of this year. I had never seen it. I picked up a copy on DVD, finally got to see it, and I wanted to kind of watch it before I saw the remake. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but I did get to see it. And I didn't love it as much as other people did. I actually thought it looked nice. Everything in it looked authentic. The production value was good. I think the director, who I can't remember who his name was, you'll have to look at that in the IMDb. But I think he did an amazing job on this as far as the look goes. There's some really interesting performances here. But for some reason, it was one of those movies that everything seemed to be right, but for some reason it just didn't gel. Nothing came together. I thought the story was a little bit all over the place. They changed a lot of things up a bit from the movie in order to make it more politically correct. And this kind of goes off a little bit of something I talked about in the last segment. Um, they have a lot more and I said it so much in the last segment. There's a lot more representation. There's some like a black. There's an Indian. There's a woman that's more centered than in the original thing. They also change the story. They actually protect. If I'm mistaken, they protect a Mexican town in the original feature, and they change it up where it's just a small town and kind of make it like it's taking on corporations. And I know westerns in the past, even back in the 50s and 60s, used to always use their storytelling to tell a more newer story. So this one they try to do the old, corporation stuff, going after corporation. It doesn't work. The politically correctness comes off a little way too polished. And the thing I like about my westerns is when they're not polished up. And if you're doing a western in the Old West, there was no politically correctness in it. It was raw. It was gritty. You didn't watch everything you said. Things didn't happen in certain ways. And I think there was just a little too much polish on this, I've seen some wonderful, westerns that they've made new, like Unforgiven and True Grit, the remake they did of that. But this one just didn't win me over. There's some wonderful performance. I never felt any of the characters bond. And it's a shame. I was really looking forward to this one. And I just think it kind of fell apart. And it just didn't ever. There's some wonderful action sequences. But as I said, as a whole, I think the movie just didn't do it for me. And, if you get a chance to see it, I think you should. Like, as I always say, don't go by my words. Always check your own movie the way you want. I always think it should be your take on a movie. But for me, I don't think The Magnificent Seven was quite that magnificent. And I honestly think it was a lot. There was so much that I liked about it that it was one of those movies. Every once in a while I see a movie where everything seems to work right. I thought the casting was good. But then when they actually put it together, it just doesn't work. And this one is how it felt for me. I would probably give this one, I'll put it right on the borderline of a 5 out of 10, just because I think it was just mediocre. The mediocre 7 probably wouldn't have sold, but anyhow, this one just for me didn't fly. If you do get a chance to see this and you've never seen the original, check out the original first, because it's, it has that grittiness. It has that very politically incorrectness, and it feels like the Old West because of it. This one had a lot of spit shine to it and just didn't make me as happy as I wanted to coming out of the theater. My second film I'm going to take a look at is a wonderful little film that I got a lovely chance to see called 8 Days a Week. This is actually a documentary about the touring days of the Beatles, and it's directed by none other than Ron Howard, who, has made some incredible movies over the years, including Backdraft, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Da Vinci Code, just some incredible movies. And he decides to do a documentary, and he picked one of his favorite subjects, the Beatles. But instead of just going over the Beatles, which, have been shown in other documentaries, he basically looks at the touring years. Now, I got a chance to see that at one of my favorite little theaters, the Westdale. And what I loved about it even more is that they actually, after the documentary, they actually have about a half-hour concert of remastered works when they performed at it in New York City at the stadium. And it's wonderful piece of nostalgia. And it says, right, don't leave after the documentary because we're going to show you this footage. And it was a lovely thing to do. To see it on the big screen was wonderful. What can I say? I'm a big fan of the Beatles. My friend Dave Marshall got me more into the Beatles when I was a teen. I had known the Beatles, but, when I was young, I probably liked the Monkees more. But Dave Marshall introduced me to a lot of their other music. And I'm glad he did, because I have a new respect for the Beatles because of it. And I have seen so many great documentaries, the Beatles anthology, some great movies, even their own documentary, Let It Be, which is very hard to find. Incredible documentary. And just like some movies they've made on the topic. There's been lots of Beatles movies. Backbeat was one of my all-time favorites. But so anyhow, it was great to just concentrate on the height of their career, which is the touring aspect. But this movie is so wonderful because it shows so much footage. And I've seen a lot of Beatles footage in my time, but there was a lot of new stuff I hadn't seen, whether it was photographs or just actual footage of like the crowding. Now, the Beatles were one of the first big bands, excuse me, that had, all the chaos and the screaming and the rioting and the, girls fainting, just at the sight of them and screaming and yelling where you couldn't hear the group. This goes on, we've seen it with Backstreet Boys, Duran Duran, Bay City Rollers, but the Beatles was the first one where the height of it just was so crazy. And just to see all that footage is so phenomenal. There are interviews with Paul McCartney and Ringo, and they do back interviews with with John Lennon and George Harrison, talking about what was going on at that time with the touring. And this is such a beautiful insight. And the Beatles are just, if you are a Beatles fan, you need to see this movie. It's probably going to be on DVD. Probably as we speak, it's already out on DVD. But if you get a chance to see it on a bigger screen, because a lot of repertoire theaters show it, it's a really great documentary. In fact, I think they should have pushed to get this on more screens, because it's always nice to go back to the Beatles, that 60s era, because, there was a lot of unrest in the world, and they deal with that stuff. They deal with, Martin Luther King, and how, the Beatles kind of said that they wouldn't play in places if it was integrated. Like, if they basically wouldn't let black people in with white people, they wouldn't play, because they were all about love and stuff like that, and they didn't want any of their fans to miss out. They also have wonderful little interviews with, fans at the time, like Sigourney Weaver and Whoopi Goldberg, who tells some wonderful stories about her being a little girl and being, in love with the Beatles' music. We don't often see idols like that in our time. We all have our favorite music things, but I can't even imagine how the world was kind of on fire and this group just came out of nowhere and spoke to a new generation. And what I always loved about the Beatles, and you see it in this movie, even though their touring career kind of ended, halfway through, is the growth of the band. They started with, these songs we could relate to, like Can't Buy Me Love and, I Want to Hold Your Hand and She Loves You. And it's built into like bigger stuff like the Sgt. Pepper album. All You Need Is Love, Let It Be, stuff like that, like really mature lyrics and stuff like that. And I love that you see it and how even the simplicity of the early songs are just kind of complex in their own simplistic way, if that makes sense. But Ron Howard, you can tell, is a real fan, and he captures the moments wonderfully. This is such a feel-good film. This isn't a documentary that's going to leave you, down in the dumps, which so many documentaries always try to find the dark side. They try to deal with some of the darker moments of it, but it's not that dark. It's just feel good. They also should play you some live versions and alternative takes of some of your favorite songs. This is well worth checking out. I would probably put this as high as like 9 out of 10. I thought it was so good. My final movie I'm going to look at is actually a movie that you may not have heard of, but if you're a big movie fan, this movie is actually getting a lot of attention, and some say it's probably one of the first front runners for Oscar time. And it should be, because it's really good. But it's not a movie that everybody's going to take to. It's called Hell or High Water, and it stars Chris Pine and Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges. And it's a really interesting story about two brothers who go on a bank robbing spree, and Jeff Bridges, who's getting close to retirement, who decides to use this to solve in order to be his last big case. Now, that doesn't even give it justice because there's such an emotional pull in this movie. The reason why I say a lot of people won't like this movie is when you think of a bank heist film, you think of a lot of calculating, you think of a lot of action, and this movie doesn't have a lot of that. It's in there, but it's not to the high levels that Hollywood used to make it. This is a small independent film, and boy, is it good. This is what I call a pot boiler because it starts on simmer, and as the movie goes, it takes us to it's almost like I would compare it, and I'm not a big book reader, so take this half-heartedly. I compare it to when you read a really good book, but it takes its time developing the characters, developing the textures of the story, and the layers of it. In fact, this movie is interesting because the movies are kind of told into two stories. You see the police, you see the criminals. And they're eventually going to meet. You just don't know how. You just don't know where, when. And that's what makes the story kind of interesting. There's also some nice plot twists here because I won't give any away because I don't like doing that. But it's interesting because, Ben Foster, he's become an actor that a lot of people don't give him credit for. He's really a great actor. And he seems to shine in everything he does. And Chris Pine, who most people know from the Star Trek movies, he really shows a different side of himself here. And you see that one of them is just a little bit out of control, a little crazy. And the other one, you're not even sure why they're robbing banks. The Chris Pine character is so subdued that you're like, how would he get involved with his crazy brother like this? But as the story goes, you start to find out some more intricacies in the story, which makes it more and more interesting as you see it. It doesn't have a huge payoff, but it is a wonderful film. And Jeff Bridges, he's been doing outstanding work forever. I wouldn't say this is his best work he's done. I think he's done a couple of Crazy Heart and True Grit. But I think he does a really good job here. I can see why it's getting early Oscar talk. I think it probably will be forgotten, sadly, because I'm sure a lot more glossier Hollywood productions are going to come out. But this movie has been doing well box office-wise. It's become one of those little dark horses. And I hope it's something people talk about. And hopefully I've turned you on to it because I think it's a really good film. I kind of wanted to love it more than I did. But I still think it's a good film. I'd give it about an 8 out of 10. And I think if you get the chance to rent it or, grab the DVD of it or stream it or however you watch movies, or you could probably catch it in a couple small theaters still. I think you should check it out. Hell or High Water, it's called. And it's a really good drama that will have you, just connected to these people. You'd be riveted to see what their story is, and you always want to see the complexity of it. Anyhow, that's my movie reviews for October. Just a few weeks from now, I'm going to be doing November. Maybe I'll do that in the first week of December, but they will be coming too. And so stay tuned for more movie love. Maybe I'll do a segment on some movies I've seen in the past and stuff like that. Anyhow, I'm going to take another short break, and I'll be back with my final segment. Thanks for sticking around with me. Hopefully you're having a good time. And we're back. Pour yourself another little bit of a drink. I'm really trying to get you to drink today. I'm not promoting that in any way. But by all means, partake. I like to think people sit and relax and listen to this. Because, I don't know. I'd like that. Anyhow, I didn't know what to do about my last segment, and I'm kind of in a funky mood, and I wish I was funky in the way of, get down tonight, do a little dance, make a little love, but I'm thinking more of a blue funk. But I wanted to talk about, and I have apologize ahead of time, I may have talked about this before, when you start doing I'm heading towards 100 episodes. I'm going to repeat myself a few times, and I apologize for that, but I'm also getting older, so I think that's okay. It's par for the course. And that's what I want to talk about, getting older, because I like to deal with it every once in a while, because we all deal with it. I don't care if you're 25, or you're 50, or you're 75. Everybody deals with the fact that they are growing older. And this kind of goes back to the first thing, that as I get older, I'm starting to open my eyes to the world a bit more. And yes, that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because I see a lot of negativity in the world. I think I embrace the beauty more, so I don't hate the fact I'm growing old. But I work at a place, Value Village, and I'm not going to tell stories or point fingers, but we have a day called Seniors Day there. And I always joke that I used to like seniors until I started working here. Because I see a lot of varieties of seniors. And don't get me wrong, I see some absolutely wonderful seniors. I am friends with seniors that I absolutely love spending time with. And the reason why is because I don't see them as seniors. They don't act like seniors. But a lot of them I see as... It's sad because a lot of them I see, they lose something in them. They lose a light in them. And as I get older, I'm starting to understand why some people lose that. And I pray to God that I never fall short of this. And sometimes I can feel my heart hardening. And I have to look around for something. And it's usually, I'm lucky and blessed to say that I usually don't have to go too far. Because I have lots of people that I love, and I still have a creative side, a creative outlet. But I can start seeing why some people lose their way and start going crazy. And I mean, not necessarily in a bad way, just literally crazy. Now, first of all, let's get something straight here. I'm not looking down on these people, but I understand why people give up so easily sometimes. One of my favorite movies as a teenager, and still today, is The Breakfast Club. I used to watch it all the time, and I still think to this day it is the epitome of teenage movies. I think John Hughes and the people who wrote it, who were not teenagers, but really seemed to tap teenage feelings, and I still think the movie holds up today. But there's a line that I probably bring up way too much because it's probably one of my favorite movie lines. I would say it would be in the top 25 of my favorite quotes. And I'm going to paraphrase, so I'm going to probably be wrong, but Ali Sheedy's character says that when you grow up, your heart dies. And I used to think that was just, oh, that's just a teenager's thoughts, over milking it, angsty. But as I get older, I'm starting to see that that is very true. People that I used to know that were very lighthearted are starting to get colder and starting to withdraw from the world. And when I feel that I'm being sucked into that venue, I get nervous because I'm like, oh my God, my heart is dying. And then I have to find ways to resuscitate it. I have to find ways. And I'm not old. I am not old by any stance. I am 48 years old. That's not old, okay? In the world we live in today, that is not old. And I know people in their 60s that act younger than me. But there are sadly a lot of people that are even younger than me that I can see their heart is starting to, that they give up, their heart's starting to go cold. And, it saddens me. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is I can relate to them. I've had a couple of blue periods in the last couple of months, and I get it. I get why people give up. I get why people give up on people, why people give up on the world itself. It's out there. It is just become a madhouse of a world. And people don't keep their words. People don't have loyalty. Our standards are so low. Whenever we know we're doing something wrong, we have an excuse for it. We have an excuse for everything, and that makes it all right. You literally can treat people like absolute shit, say, oh, well, I suffer from mental health, and everybody just supposed to go, oh, I get it now. It's just, I can see why people lose their way. And it does make me sad, and I feel myself now and again losing my way. And it's scary. And I bet you there's other people that are listening to this right now. No matter what age you are, you have moments of feeling like you're losing your way. And you know that it's only temporary. That maybe tomorrow morning or maybe next week you're going to feel better. And I know that with me, so I can be in a blue funky mood right now and know that in a day or two I'm going to be fine. It'll be something stupid that'll bring me back to life. But then there's a moment where you are worried that this is going to stay. It's going to be a permanent thing. Or at least I have that worry. I shouldn't speak for you. But we have those moments, and I see these people in life that have given up. And they finally said, that's it. I'm going to be blue. I'm going to be sad all the time. I'm going to be bitter all the time. I'm going to use sarcasm to the point that people are going to just throw up. And I see that in older people. And as I get older, I fear it's going to happen to me. And I feel that every year I have to fight harder. Is it worth the fight? Absolutely. I don't want to spend my last years on planet Earth being sad. I don't want to be depressed all the time. And I certainly don't want to be bitter about everything. That's the worst, because that's when your heart has absolutely turned black. And it's almost at the point that nothing can resuscitate it. And that is horrible. So yes, every year it becomes a harder fight. Anybody who's sat through these episodes know that week after week after week, I fight this. And it's going to be a fight I'm going to have till the end of my days, but I am going to fight it. And I hope that you are with me. I want you right there beside me, fighting with me. I need people to fight more. Because as I see these old people, and some of them are just so privileged, or rude and uncaring. And I think, how do you make it that long in your life and you have not picked up a sense of humanity? That you just think, oh, I'm the only one still on this earth. But that's when you start looking to the other people. You start looking to the people that do. They let people in line. I've had old people ask to have a seat on the bus, and I say no. But I'm so honored that it's like, this is an old person that's doing this. I love listening to people's stories. And older people have wonderful stories, because when you hear them tell the story of something of their past or their youth, you almost see them transport into that age again. And suddenly you don't see that. I'm all over the place with this, and I'm allowed to be. It's my radio show. I recently, for Halloween, I shaved off my goatee because I played a woman at my Halloween party. And I decided I want to kind of play with my beard a bit, so I thought I'd start brand new and have it all growing evenly. Now, in my full costume, it didn't really shock me, but after I pulled my wig off and stuff, I said to my friends, closest people ever, did any of you notice I shaved my goatee to play this character? And they said no. It all blended in. I went to work the next day, and I was again, I wore the same witch's costume. It was Halloween, and nobody seemed to know. And the next day I woke up, went to work, and no costume, because it was now November 1st, and nobody noticed that I had shaved my beard off. Now, this is kind of what's gotten me into the blue period again, is because I read somewhere once that they say that men become invisible at 55. Here I am, I'm at 48, I'm 7 years away from that, and I still feel that I'm invisible sometimes. I know I'm not, but I feel it. And this is one of those cases where I just kind of want to shut down, and I want to just walk away from the world for a bit, and know that I'm going to have to fight yet again, because this is another thing that I could just shut down all systems and let it go at that. But I know I've got to fight. And that's okay. Because I'm going to continue to fight, because that's what I do. It's pretty much in my cards. I don't know why it's so important to me. You make big changes in your life, and then automatically nobody sees them. The goatee will be back in no time. It's going to grow. And it just kind of, it just saddens me that I don't make more of an impact. Like, oh my God. Mike noticed, but Mike would have noticed, even though he knew I was going to do it anyhow. Mike's just good with that. He is really prone to detail. Although, come to think about that, the last time I got my hair cut, he didn't really notice. But my hair was a little out crazy when he saw it. Anyhow, I see how easy it is. I turn on Facebook, I can be in a great mood. I start seeing stuff about the election, I see stuff about, various things, and I suddenly just have to start blocking stories and stuff, and then I realize there's too many and I can't do it anymore. I see it when I turn on the news and everything just seems negative. I just dying to hear some good news. Then I stay and watch the weather, and it tells me, oh, we're going to have some rain, some storms. And usually I love the rain, but I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm hoping just for a happy news story. Then even when I go out places to work, or to the staircase to teach or something, I suddenly hear negativity all around, and my good mood suddenly, as I get older, little things trigger it so easily, and it makes me feel like I have no control over it. That I could be literally going out and somebody will say something that will put me in a bad mood, and suddenly I'm fighting again not to become this sad, bitter old person. I know my life was born to fight. I knew that at an early age. Things happened to me as a child that I knew I had to battle when I got older. And the battle obviously continues. So that movie line, when you get older, your heart dies, from The Breakfast Club, may have turned out like to be just some little Hollywood screenwriter writing it, but it's probably one of the most real quotes ever, because it's true. It doesn't mean everybody's heart dies. It means that if you don't fight every day, you will be one of those ones that will suddenly just give up. And you'll either be depressed all the time, you'll be sad, you'll be angry all the time, you'll be bitter, or worse, you just exist. You just go through the motions day by day with no emotion. And that is just a life I cannot have. I in no way could deal with that. And that's why I fight. So I'm feeling blue a little now, but I'm going to fight. And I know that hopefully tomorrow, but it might be 2 days, it might be a couple of days, it might be a week, I'll be back to my fighting spirit. I wish I didn't have to fight so hard, but this is the way I'm going to be. I've come to terms with that, because if I stop fighting, that's it. I disconnect Facebook. I stop going out with people. I stop connecting with people. I come home to see Mike, sit in front of the TV. That's not how I want to die. I want to die with people around me. I want to die laughing. I want to die dancing. I want to die being around the people I care about and knowing they want to be around me. Some days I feel I'm not going to get that, but I will fight for it. So at least people will say, Devlin never gave up. He had moments where he was down, but he never gave up. And I think the more I say it on this radio show, on days where I just don't have any fight left in me, I can listen to this, and it'll be like me kicking myself in my ass and saying, get going, it's time to fight. And hopefully I've kicked you in your ass, because I know there are some of you that feel like me these days. And I hope you're crying with me too, because we all need a good cry. I swear I don't start these tapes saying, okay, I'm going to make sure I cry around third segment. I'll get them this time. This is real here. This is me. And that's why I don't get the big ratings, because I don't follow the status quo. I don't just tell you things that are true. If I truly believe in them, I will tell you them. If I don't believe them, I'll tell you in them. That's why the few people that do listen to this show, because they know they're getting me. And I've been genuine since 1968. I never thought I'd see the day where I'd be like airing my dirty laundry out in public. This is something you used to write in a diary once in a while. Now it's out there in YouTube. It's now in iTunes. It's out there. Some people call me stupid for doing that. But when I get emails from people or comments saying, glad you talked about that. I needed that kick in the ass. I feel that way too. When I get any kind of comments like that, I never regret anything I've done. So now I'm going to blow my nose, dust myself off, pick myself up, and go do something that I love to do. And I thank you for staying right to the end of this, and I hope you do the same thing. Go find something fun you want to do. I have had a great time, and I will see you all very, very soon.